Welcome everybody. Hopefully this is working. I'll check really quick, make sure I'm recording. And I am recording. So yeah, it's been a while. I'm coming back to try and just finish up this tutorial series and maybe start another project. Today we're going to finish up what I had promised of making a bar stool. And then I'll do a couple more to maybe make a glass and then a milkshake inside the glass. Today I just wanted a couple disclaimers. I had to kind of rebuild this file. I had lost some things, so the textures may be different. You can see on the floor my textures don't loop well. That's okay, I'm just going to go with it. I don't think it's that important to the tutorial. So today we're going to make that bar stool, and the first thing I want to talk about is layers. I've introduced these before. These are these little, if you can see in the middle of the screen, there's this little grid with rounded corners. Each of these represents a different layer, and what a layer is a way to compartmentalize your work. So if I click on the second layer, which is, see the one with the orange dot in it is the active layer. So if I click on the second layer, well sorry, the orange dot shows that there are objects. The dark color, dark gray, shows the active layer. So I have objects in the first layer, but I'm active in the second layer now, and there's nothing here. That's okay. I'm actually going to pan down with the shift and mouse just to get my view lined up here, right? And I'm going to add an object, and I'm going to make my bar stool in this second layer just to keep it away from everything so I don't get confused. And then I'm going to add it back into my scene on the first layer afterwards. So in that way I'll just compartmentalize my work. First thing I want to do is make sure I'm in object mode, and I'm going to hit Shift A to add a cylinder. And it added it where my cursor was. If you guys do this, I do this all the time. Easy way to fix it is Shift S for snap, cursor to center, Shift S again, selection to cursor. And there we go. Got it in the middle. So I've added my cylinder right in the middle. Right off the bat, I know I'm going to move this down a little. Right off the bat, I know I'm going to need to grab it, Z1, just to get it up on here. I don't really need to do that, but I want to. The next thing I want to do is scale, Z 0.3. That looks about the size of a good seat cushion, in my view. I've done this once quick run through, so I kind of have a good idea, but 0.3 was the size that I wanted, and we may scale this later depending, but it's okay. This is a good start. Then I want to go into edit mode, and I want to preface this with, well, I want to show you how to use the subdivision surface modifier. So that would be, if you click on the wrench in the options pane on the right hand side, that's your modifiers. We've talked about this in a previous tutorial. And then we're going to add a modifier, and we're going to, under the generate column, go to subdivision surface. And if you notice, it does weird things to, I mean, it kind of looks okay. It looks kind of like a gem cut. But as I up the number of subdivisions, it looks better and better. Still a little bit too oval shaped for my view. So what I want to do is, before I apply this, quick notice here, the vertices that are shown are the ones that actually exist. Even though the vertices shown here don't match what's the gray object inside of them, that's because we haven't applied the modifier. If we apply the modifier, then the gray object becomes our object, but for now we actually only have the ones in this cylinder, the orange cylinder that you see. So what I want to do is I want to actually, before I apply this, and I probably won't ever apply this to be honest, but what I want to do to the original mesh is come over in this side thing. If you don't have this, you can hit T. T will pop this toolbox out, and I want to go to subdivide. Now the difference between subdivision surface and subdivide is that subdivision surface will naturally smooth it. Subdivide does not. It just adds more points in there. So if I click subdivide, it adds this middle row around the cylinder. and that preserves a little bit more of the cylindrical shape for the cushion, and that's what I want in my cushion. So I'm actually going to do my views and my render to 3 subdivisions, and that's a nice round seat cushion, I believe. And that's really all I had to do. I took the cylinder, I subdivided it once to add in some extra points to keep its shape a little bit better, and then I smoothed it out with this subdivision surface, and that is my seat cushion. It's literally all the modeling I'm going to do for the seat cushion. So up in my hierarchical view over here, I'm going to double click on cylinder and rename it to seat cushion. And then I'm going to add a material, and I'm actually going to switch back to my other layer. So I'm going to go to object mode really quick, and you can see it looks pretty fancy. I'm going to hit 1, or just click the first box here to go back to my first layer. I'm going to right click on any object in here, and I want to steal this node setup to make it easy to add my texture to my seat cushion. So I'm going to hit A, select everything. I think I can Control C, someone said in the comments. Come over to my seat cushion on layer 2, so I can either click here and then hit 2 to go to that layer. And then in my node setup down here with the mouse in here, I'm going to paste, and that doesn't work. So I think there's a way to do this. Either way, I'm just going to make a new material. Do this really quick as a review. My color I'm going to leave alone for now. Actually, yeah. I'm going to make a... I'm going to cut that. Oh, wrong button. Control cuts. And then I'm going to add a shader. I'm going to add the mix shader. Pop that in, and I'm going to combine a glossy shader because I'm going to make it a leather seat, and leather has a little bit of gloss to it. And then for my color, I need to add in a let's see what it's called. I need to refresh myself on the node setup. Image texture. Mapping UV map. Okay, so we're going to go back, click on this object. You can add image texture, and that's going to be our color. We're going to leave this just a white gloss on there, I believe. Then we're going to add a, I already forgot what it is. Mapping and UV map. So Shift A again, vector mapping, grab that, and then vector, just gotta find the UV map. I always get mixed up in these menus here. There it is, input UV map, done. Okay. So let's see if we can get this. I'm going to tab over to my web browser where I have gone to cgtextures.com. I'm going to download just a random, I searched for leather. I found a red leather, and I'm going to download this. I'm going to save it. I'm going to come back here and click open on my image texture. That's in my downloads folder, and it's the leather, just like that. Okay, now it's hard to see because there's no light, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to move this back to the other layer. In object mode, with the object selected, you can tell it's selected because it's highlighted in orange. Press M for move, and you can either click on the layer to move it, or you can press the number of that layer. So M1 moves it to layer 1. I'm going to go back to layer 1, and here it is. Okay. Just connect my shader to the surface. And you'll notice it didn't load in because I don't have my UV map. I'm going to go to the UV editing view really quick on this one. And I'm going to just do a cylinder projection. And something like that should be okay. It's not going to be great, but it's a simple texture and a simple object. This curve along here is the outside. So actually, I'm going to show you guys something. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to clear seam. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to box select this whole top, and I'm going to mark seam, and I'm going to unselect that and box select this whole bottom, and I'm going to mark seam. Box select, if you forgot, is B. It lets you drag and select things. And then I'm going to just select, holding down shift, this line, and I'm going to mark seam. And then I'm going to, with this whole thing highlighted, make sure the whole thing's highlighted, I'm going to go to unwrap. Now, that is a little bit better. It's not perfect. I think I messed up. Yeah, I messed up with that part. So when I selected it, I forgot to select the back part. Either way, if you have your occlude geometry on when you select it, it'll be a little bit better. But you can see it's better unwrapped. You have the top circle, the bottom circle, and then the side is all just laid out there for you. So it's a little bit better unwrapping than the big wavy auto unwrap. So this is what we're going to use for our UV image. We're going to come down here and save as a new one. Over here. And then we're going to go to, I don't remember how to save that to a new one, quite honestly. I think it auto saves. So I'm going to go back to my regular view. Default. There we are. And with that said, I'm going to select my UV map. And you can see, if we go to object mode, you can see some of the texture on there. Now it's glossy because of this color. This color doesn't quite match. So what we're going to do is actually keep this as white, or kind of close to white, maybe pinkish. Keep it bright. We're going to change the mix down. And that's our leather seat, just like that. All done. So sorry that was a little rough. I'm a little rusty. If you have questions, post them. The next thing we're going to do is actually a little bit easier. We're going to move this seat cushion back to layer 2. Then we're going to move to layer 2. Notice I just pressed the number 2 to move over. We're going to add a new object. So we're going to be in object mode, Shift A. We're going to add another cylinder, mesh cylinder. We're going to make the seat legs, the chair legs. And the way we're going to do that is, if you notice, it's actually a perfect height for the seat legs. So what we're going to do is we're going to scale, but we don't want to scale. Okay, so we don't want to scale in the Z direction because it's a good height. We don't want to scale in the X direction because that stretches it out. We don't want to scale in just the Y direction because that stretches it out. We want to scale in both the X and the Y direction. So we're going to do, after we hit the S to scale, we're going to hold down Shift and Z. And what that does is it locks it to the Z plane, or the plane orthogonal or perpendicular to the Z plane, or to the Z direction. The plane orthogonal to the Z direction. And that way it'll scale, as you can see. Sorry, I just messed it up with a middle mouse click. But as you can see, if we hit scale, Shift Z, it doesn't show it, I'm sorry, it doesn't show the screen key, but Shift Z will make it wider like that without making it taller. So I want to get a good thickness. I'm going to come under it to see it. Shift Z again, and I want to scale it to about that. Now I don't want just one. I think that's kind of cheating just to do one simple one like that. Plus I can teach you another modifier. We're going to do 4 legs on this chair, but we're going to do it kind of a cheating way. I'm going to introduce to you the mirror modifier. So we're going to, with this object selected, we're going to click on the modifiers again. That's the wrench. We're going to add a modifier, and we're going to go to mirror, which would be under generate mirror. Okay, now mirror can be tricky. Don't get frustrated if your mirror messes up. First of all, you need to understand that it does not mirror based on the 3D cursor. It does not mirror based on the origin in the middle. Where it mirrors is based on that orange dot, which is the center of your project, the median of the project, the median point. Okay, that orange dot. So if we wanted to move the item, for example, we would go into edit mode and move the whole thing. So grab, I'm going to move it X 0.5. See, it's already mirrored there. And I'm going to move it, hit enter, and then I'm going to move it Y 0.5. So it's off on a diagonal now, 0.5 and 0.5. It's only mirrored on the x-axis now. We're going to click X and Y to mirror it on X and Y axis, and you can see it's all mirrored around that orange dot. Now why did we have to move it in edit mode? Well, if you move it in object mode, you are moving that orange dot with the item. So when we move it in edit mode, we're moving it off center of its median point. When we move it in object mode, we're moving the median point with it. So always get the movement in edit mode when you're working with the mirror modifier. I actually have had quite a lot of trouble with that in the past, so I'm trying to be as clear as possible. You want to be in edit mode when you use the mirror modifier, or when you get it set up. I don't think it lets you add the modifier in edit mode, but anyway, you get the point now. We're going to then call that good. That's our legs. I think that's perfect. We're going to make a chrome material for them. We don't need a texture. We're just going to go a really easy, we're going to delete the diffuse. We're going to add a mix shader. We're going to add a glossy shader because it's going to be shiny. And we're going to add what's called this anisotropic BSDF. Now BSDF refers to the algorithm. Anisotropic refers to how the reflection is handled on metal. Metal has an odd reflection. It tends to reflect in various patterns, not clearly, like glass would. So this anisotropic tries to mimic that. And so we're going to go a nice light gray to get our chrome look on both of these. Our roughness is going to be 0. We'll do a little bit of roughness on the anisotropic. I honestly don't know these parameters very well for anisotropy. We're going to test that and see if that looks good. We may change the mix shader to make it a little more glossy or not. So, okay. With that done, we can move back into object mode. We don't even need to apply that modifier. We can if we want to, but we never really need to apply it. We're just going to then, we want to keep things as simple as possible until the very end. And if I apply this, then all of a sudden I have 4 times the number of vertices and planes that I have to work with, and if I move one, it might mess it up. So until I'm absolutely sure, I don't want to apply that mirror modifier. Okay. Now, I'm going to rename this cylinder to chair legs up in the hierarchy. I'm going to select all of this, the seat and the legs. I'm actually going to grab it and move it up one in the Z direction so it sits level on the ground. And then I'm going to move it with M to the first layer. Then I'm going to go to the first layer. And then I'm going to test out how it looks in rendered. Now before I click on rendered, I just want to give you a preface. It may freeze up a little bit. I'm going to try and zoom in and rotate a little, and then I'll pause it and let it finish doing the preview. So with that said, I'm going to come down. I'm going to hold down Control, pan over, Shift, pan up with the middle mouse button, and zoom in. Okay, now I'm letting it come to. I'm letting it render. While it renders, I'm going to click on the scene over here, and I'm going to go to samples on the side under sampling. And that's just the number of passes. I've had a few comments about how grainy everything looks when you go to render. That's just the number of passes. You need more passes. The cycles rendered does it by starting out grainy and making it more and more refined. So that's our scene for today. That's all I'm going to cover for today. If you'd like, you can add a subdivision surface modifier to the legs. That will make them... Hopefully it will make them smoother, but I'm just going to right click on them and hit shading smooth. You can see a little bit of the lines from how it's not super smooth, but then again that may just be the checkered floor, how it's reflected. Overall I think it looks okay. If you have questions, post them. I may answer questions sporadically, but I'll try and answer questions. So quick review, we worked with layers. We learned how to move things between layers. We learned a couple of modifiers and how they're used to simply and quickly model things. These are basically a cylinder with the subdivision surface modifier and a cylinder with the mirror modifier. So if you have questions, post them. We'll see you again soon.